Okay, we will call this regular council meeting to order for August the 26th. It's 3 p.m. and I will ask Councillor Wing to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Thank you so much, Councillor Wing. And we'll just go into the agenda 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No. Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please?
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. So welcome to everyone in the gallery today. Just before we get started, I just want to read our public conduct out of our council procedure bylaw. So in section 14.1, members of the public during a meeting will maintain order and quiet, non-interrupted speech or action of council or another person addressing the members of council. And B, the chair may order a member of the public who creates a disturbance or acts improperly at a meeting to be expelled for the remainder of the meeting. So we're hoping we have a great meeting today. We'll move into 3.1, the minutes for the regular council meeting for August 12th. Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt those minutes? Councillor Bates.
I'll move those minutes be adopted.
Thank you. Any changes? No? All in favor? All right, carried. Thank you. And then we'll move into 3.2, the special council meeting minutes that we had on August the 19th. Can I please have someone make a motion to adopt those? Councillor Dunham.
Barkley, I'll make those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Any changes? No? All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. So I will ask 4.1 for our CEO, Todd Becker, to please introduce STARS Area Ambulance Delegation.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. As a delegation comes forward, I'd like to reintroduce to you Glenda Farndon from STARS, as well as introduce to you Council Shannon Paquette, who's requested to come before Council to give updates on the STARS operations.
Okay, well, welcome and thank you for coming today. Look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. It's so great to see all of you again and very pleased to bring you your annual update. We've been very pleased to have worked with your council now for many years, especially on the project of having a helipad here co-located with your hospital now to serve. We can better serve your residents, your community, and your bordering neighbors as well. So that is a very influential and monumental achievement that I feel we've done together and really appreciate your support. So in getting started first, critical care anywhere. That is what STARS is all about. In a worst case scenario, STARS is the best hope. Next slide, please. So as just an update financially, I'm sure that everyone has heard that we finally did secure another 10-year service agreement, long-term service agreement with Alberta Health Services at block funding of $15 million per year. So previously, up to 2010 to 2020, we had a 10-year agreement at approximately 20% funding. So this is substantially much more funding and sustainability for STARS. As well of that, it still leaves just under $28 million that must be fundraised each year to maintain 3 bases in Alberta. So of that, of course, we have a very successful, well-respected lottery. And we're very grateful. It's almost going on 30 years. And it's because Albertans continue to stand by our side. So that nets approximately $10 million net every year to offset that amount of money that has to be fundraised. So leaving approximately $18 million a year that we generate from our corporate sponsors, as well as many long-standing community events, some that are even recognized on the helicopter itself for long-standing events, our municipal partners, as well as many other, individuals that are also supportive. So together, we will continue to have Stars in Alberta. Next year, we will be celebrating 40 years of serving Albertans. Next slide, please. So of this, I want to bring you kind of an update of what's happening municipally across the province and into northeastern BC. So everywhere that you see highlighted in green is an annual rural supporter of STARS. They are part of our municipal initiative program. To break it down then, the ones that are shown in the red boxes, we have 9 current municipal leaders. So we are an actual line item in their budget each year. So we now have these 9 that are represented on the helicopter with their municipal logo. We are at about 94% of all of Alberta is joined in partnership supporting STARS annually and recognizing STARS as a part of the emergency protective services that they provide for their residents. Last year, we welcomed Sturgeon County to add their logo onto the helicopter, and this year in June, we welcomed Birch Hills County. These all have reached a minimum $500,000 in giving, up to $3 million in support of STARS. The regional leaders are shown in the yellow boxes. These are all rural municipal districts and counties that are giving a minimum $2 per capita each year as part of the municipal initiative program, and have moved to a fixed rate of support annually so that we no longer see fluctuation with the census. As well, the little stars represent 16 complete regional partnerships. This means that within that county's boundaries, every town and village that lies within that county's boundaries is also an annual supporter of STARS along with their county. So you can see it is very much a united partnership as we continue to build a robust health and safety network across the province. Next slide, please. So let's have a look here. This is basically a almost 5-year overview of missions flown by STARS within Red Deer County boundaries up to August 15th of this year. So you can see that there are, many different areas within Red Deer County that we serve, as well as in red, the Innisfail Hospital critical interfacility transfers. Now these are lots of times can be calls that are generated just outside your town limits. That patient has been delivered by ground ambulance to the local hospital, the Innisfail Hospital, but because it is of a critical nature, then it warrants STARS. And so when STARS is called then, because we now have a helipad, we can also, be very timely in arriving, in packaging the patient, getting that patient to a higher level of care, as well as not having to utilize and tie up your other resources, because there is a helipad here now, once again. Also, Innisfail scene calls. So overall, for Innisfail, you're now averaging about 8.5 missions per year, where within Red Deer County itself, which is areas where all of us travel, all of your residents will travel across your county as well. So Red Deer County averages 98 missions per year. So previously, town of Innisfail averaged around 7 missions per year. So now this is also, as of last year, reflecting an increase from the previous 7 to 8.5 now. And it's very fortunate that town of Innisfail is really co-located in an area where your residents are served by 2 STARS bases, both Edmonton and Calgary. So you kind of have dual service as well, which is a real bonus for your residents and your area. Next slide, please. So I brought you information. Next slide. There we go. Thank you. About the Postal Code Project. So this helps to identify within Red Deer County boundaries residents who have had a postal code within this area. You'd have to move it over a little so we can see the resident listings on the far left. The other way, please. Right there. So you can see at the bottom, the resident communities. These are the areas that patients have been flown by STARS that had a postal code. This is where they lived at the time they were flown by STARS. So as an update, just for last year only, 8 area residents from those resident communities you see have been flown by STARS. But on the right-hand side, this helps to identify the areas where these residents were at. 201 in total at the time they were flown by STARS. Let's go to the next slide for a zoomed-in view. So out of 201 total area residents flown since 2010, 39 residents were actually picked up in Innisfail. Of those 201, 162 residents were flown from 46 other locations across 2 provinces. So all those red dots or the location listings below actually show you where Red Deer County residents, including Innisfail, town of Innisfail residents that were flown, have been at. Accidents and illness do not happen just because you're close to home. This is a testament to the value of partnership and being able to have access to STARS wherever your residents may travel across Western Canada, where we have 6 bases in 4 provinces. 3 provinces, and we serve the 4th province, BC. So Shannon's going to give us a little bit of an update on the operational aspects.
Sure. So this is our Emergency Link Center pictured on the slide here, which is located out of our Calgary base. We receive around 36,000 emergency requests annually, which works out to about 100 a day. As STARS is the dedicated critical care provider in Alberta, we are integrated with all of the dispatch centers and resources. So we also oversee dispatching HALO and HERO in northeastern and southeastern Alberta as well. When an incident occurs, the ELC can link together all these resources, which saves time and gives the best possible chance to the patient. At STARS, we are transport agnostic, which means our crew does not only fly via helicopter, we will provide critical care via fixed wing, ground ambulance, or even virtually. An example of a virtual situation would be if you had a scene call where they were brought to your local hospital and STARS was called due to the severity of the situation. Our transport physician can be working with your local nurses and doctors at the rural hospital while we're being dispatched. And then once we have the patient and we're on the way to the receiving hospital, they can be transmitting all the information to get the OR ready and all the specialists so we can bypass the ER. So this saves time on both ends of the mission, which if it's a life-saving mission, which they all are, then that's, that time can save lives. Next slide, please. So STARS is a proud, innovative leader, and we are a pioneer in our industry. We were the first civilian organization to have night vision goggles. Since half of our calls occur at night, that was a vital addition to our processes. We're the first ones in North America to carry universal blood on board, which can be used by any patient. And we've recently increased that to 4 units from 2 units. And as you can imagine, this is the difference between life and death for many, many patients that we fly. And then just as of last October, we have our massive hemorrhage protocol, which reverses anticoagulation and promotes blood clotting in severe trauma patients. So patients that require more than the 2 units of blood, we could administer this, and it gives us more time to get them to the hospital. Next slide, please. So the Air Medical Transport Conference is an annual conference that is held. It gathers together EMS helicopter organizations from around the world to see who is the best of the best. We have entered this competition for 21 years now. We have internal competitions to see which crew have the privilege of representing STARS on the international stage. It's very rigorous. Last year, I believe, for 2 hours, the lights were out during the competition, so they had to continue to triage without having lighting. And in 21 years, we have come in first place 7 times, but the top 3 every single year. So I think this is a testament to the level of critical care that we are providing your residents.
Thank you, Shannon. And so in closing, we would like to first and foremost, we want to thank the town of Innisfail, and we want to thank all of the current and past leaders that are shown here throughout the years of helping us to have a helipad to land at your hospital. Initially, when the very first helipad, I believe, was 1998, until now, when we last year were able to have an official unveiling again on June 8th. Previously, though, our very first landing on this new helipad was in November of 2022. So just right after everything was completed. It's an absolute benefit to your residents and to your area. We can't thank you enough, all these leaders that are shown here. We can't thank you enough for your dedication and leadership. We fully understand that this is a big undertaking for a community like Town of Innisfail. But we're seeing the reflection of benefits to your residents, even through the statistics. Now that, you know, the mission is increasing, we are able to better serve your residents and area. We are not tying up your other resources, fire, RCMP, ground ambulance, that they can still be available for other emergency calls because they're not tied to us, you know, in order to be able to get that patient and get that patient to higher level tertiary care. I can't impress upon you enough the vital importance of the undertaking that you as a council and your residents did to have that helipad there. That is, it's priceless. There are not enough words to say about the value of that. So we want to make sure that you understand that we are so grateful for your undertaking of that. And we understand that that is a big financial commitment that you've made on several years' term. What we would like to ask is, we would also like to celebrate Town of Innisfail as a municipal partner of our municipal program. So we would kindly like to ask for your consideration as a council for any size of contribution that you could put forward that we can recognize you as a part of that 94% of Alberta as we build that sustainable relationship in an effort to ensure that everyone has access to a robust health and safety network. So we welcome your consideration at any amount of your choosing, because we really do want to showcase Town of Innisfail as our municipal partner. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Glenda. And I think this picture is even more special today than, of course, our dear friend Pat Newman passed away a couple
Yes.
10 days ago or so. And yeah, they were such huge supporters, and her husband Bob was such a huge supporter of STARS for many, many years. So yeah, very special, and thank you for your kind words. Does anybody have any questions for Glenda? I can ask, and you're probably not the person to ask, it's probably more an HS question, but considering that the investment that the town of Innisfail made and the annual operating expenses, I know at the time when we looked into this and we started dealing with this last council, there was no money from HS because we didn't meet the scoring criteria. I think they had 3 different areas of scoring, and we didn't meet them. But it seems now that flights are more than what they were at that time, or the stats that we had the previous few years. And I'm wondering if it's possible, like, do they do any operational funding in 2 municipalities that are operating these heliports, or do they assist at all, do you know? And like I said, I'm probably asking the wrong person, but.
Well, there are communities that Alberta Health Service has provided and paid for the helipads in those communities that meet the criteria of, it must be 10 or more interfacility transfers per year.
Okay.
You must be more than 45 minutes, more than 15 minutes drive time away from the nearest airport, and you have to be more than 45 minutes away from tertiary care.
Okay.
So technically, you
One.
would meet the one criteria
Okay.
out of the
Right,
three,
yeah.
right? So there are some that Alberta Health Services, it is on their property where this is on town property. So this was a significant initiative for the town to be able to ensure the best in critical care and access to critical care by taking on that initiative. And you do have, I've used you as an example several times now with other communities across the province that are looking to follow your lead and do the same for their residents, because this day and age, we should not have hospitals that do not have helipads when we have access and the ability to make sure that critical care is always timely. So as you move forward, you know, this is I can't even find the right word. It is a massive commitment to your future generations, because now we will continue to be able to better serve your community and your future generations with that helipad infrastructure in place.
Okay, no, thank you for that reminder. I couldn't remember the scoring criteria, and you know, certainly we're so proud to have this in our community, and it was a big decision at the time, but it was the right decision without question. So I think if you leave that request with us, and we can talk about it further another day, and budget and all that kind of thing. But
Yes.
Again, as always, we appreciate seeing you and giving us an update, and congratulations on the funding with HS. That's an amazing partnership, and thanks for all the great work you do in our communities and throughout Alberta and BC and Saskatchewan. So,
Well, thank you. And Shannon, moving forward,
Yes,
Shannon has been an
yes.
addition to my team, municipal team, to be helping with Central Alberta, because she's very co-located out of the Edmonton base as well. So she will be bringing you your annual updates, while I will be continuing to work with the province across, and so that we can increase and have 100% support.
no, thank you, and it's great meeting you too, Shannon. Welcome to the team. So, all right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we will move on to 5.1 in our CAO report with CEO Becker.
Thanks, Mayor Buckley. Hello, Council. Part of this, the CEO report is some information regarding a letter Council received back in June of this year. A citizen requested for Council to consider amending the urban hen bylaw to allow for, I wouldn't call it free roaming, but to allow the urban hens to leave their coop. The manager's here. If there's any more technical questions, I'll give it a shot, and maybe his colleagues could see him in action if we have to bring him up to the front. Anyways, what the nature of the request, as mentioned, was to allow the urban hens out of their coops for a period of time, perhaps, through an administrative review, through enforcement, and through my support, as the report indicates, is to recommend not to amend the bylaw at this given time. If the council feels differently, we could come back to you with amendments to that bylaw, as you could see what that reading would be. Until that direction is given, administration is recommending not to proceed to make those amendments. As the report indicates, there's following reasons we're making that recommendation. That's basically unsupervision of the hens, attracting external animals, complaints. We didn't have formal complaints, but the one informal complaint we did receive was to do with chickens, hens on the loose, so to speak. So there's a few reasons why administration is making this recommendation. Looking for your direction, council, if you would agree with administration's recommendation. Other than that, if council has any comments, questions, please, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
All right, thank you, CEO Becker. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I guess just
Councillor
really a
Dunham?
comment is that there are the abilities to have coops that can be moved around lawns. So if they are having issues where they want more range, they could potentially do something like that to
Definitely.
increase the area that they can cover.
Okay, if nothing else, I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we approve the CEO report. Councillor Dunn.
Mayor Barclay, I'll make the motion that council approves the Chief Administrative Officer report dated August 26, 2024 as information.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move on to 5.2 and advocacy framework with CEO Becker.
Thank you, Mayor Berkeley. As you can see within this report, this is an outstanding, kind of long, outstanding council strategic priority is to develop a council advocacy framework or a strategy. We've combined, I'll back up. Previously, council reviewed 2 frameworks from 2 different municipalities. Quite a lot of information within those documents. We felt let's just combine into one document, have a kind of introductory framework, but also follow up with actually advocacy priorities that you would consider. So we combined what was being declared as council's advocacy priority areas with a framework. So looking for your guidance, council, and just a review, feedback if this is fitting your expectations. And as per the attached documents, basically there's an outline of what the advocacy plan is, how it is to be used, how it's to be updated. It also states within the plan, but also the report, a more detailed action plan would accompany your advocacy priorities. Right now, I believe your priority has been communicated, funding for the culture and recreation facilities, a little bit of background there with the current ongoing action is the resolutions going to the Alberta municipalities at their upcoming conference in September. The other priority is the waste to energy project, which has been a long-term priority of council and the community. Again, this one's more in the hands of Varma, and unless there's advocacy, what council wishes to do, there's not been a detailed action plan associated with that priority. So looking for your feedback, council, is this meeting your mark? And the other part of this is a liquid document, so it moves based on your direction. If a priority is set by council, it'll be allocated into this document, and something may come up spontaneously or quickly that you make a priority, but it's based on council's desire and will to move forward with an advocacy strategy. So just any feedback would be great, please.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any feedback? Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and through to CAO Becker. I wanted to thank you for this, actually. I know that when we started having the discussion around government relations and advocacy, it was kind of it was interesting for us all to sort of wrap our heads around what that would look like, but I love the fact that we have a framework now. It is a fluid framework. We can add, we as council can add to it as we feel we need to, and I appreciate that very much. It'll help us keep track of where we are with the things that we've identified as being important. So thank you for your work on this.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, then I'll just have somebody please make the recommended motion. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'd like to move that council accept the Town of Innisfil Advocacy Plan document as presented.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move on to 5.3, an RFD for strategic priorities with CEO Becker.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So this report is really meant to introduce or reintroduce to you your strategic priorities, which includes both council's priorities, again, higher end, as also the administration operation priorities. This does not include the details of the operational capital plans, your other strategies, for example, power of place, or your age-friendly strategy, for example. So this is not all-inclusive. You'll see more reports on capital projects, operational projects into next week's meeting, which will go through your second quarter financials. So you'll have all the list of your different projects in that area. This is more of a higher end priority focus. So I'd like to just move into reviewing a few key documents. And what this report includes is, again, there's a lot of detail in this report. Your 2022 to 2025 strat plan, which was developed right on the onset of council. So once you were elected, council went into a strategic planning session. The results of your planning session went out to the community for feedback, which resulted in the 2022-25 strategic plan. Part of that then, partway through your term or halfway through your term, which was last September, council went through a midterm priority setting document, which I'd like to go into a little bit more detail on that one. Again, that one came to you, was then circulated to the community for feedback, and then you approved it through a council resolution. And then it goes into those priority sessions, which I started with this report. So I'm just going to go down into just bypassing the strat plan, moving down into the next document, which is the midterm priority setting documents. And I'll slide down right into the document, please, Juanita. So I just wanted to go on page 1, just to reference a few key areas. So council's insights at that time was to focus on the plan, housing being the strategy, industrial development is key. Moving into a huge amount of work and output has been done on the current strategic plan. And if you recall, council, part of the strat plan is to actually build out action plans. So once you set out the strategy, then it's put into administration to build out key action plans and report on them quarterly to you, onto the community. Recreation is a priority, aquatic center funding, of course, multiplex discussion. Economy has been high on your list. Biggest challenge is adapting the social economic issues for citizens, building relationships with industry and partners, hydrogen strategy with CP Rail, etc. Environments also is to make sure we're leaders and stewards of climate mitigation. And again, back to housing is one of your key priority areas. Council has been really great to allow administration to have input on the priorities and focus areas. The staff's insight a year ago was coming in on the 2024 budget. Asset management and our core infrastructure needs has remained a priority, just to understand what the condition is of our facilities and infrastructure. Downtown redevelopment direction, of course, the housing, growth of the town, the industrial subdivision growth, just the demand for that sort of development is so key for our community. Maintaining organizational excellence, growth and excellence, continuous improvement, prevention and protection program, again, focus on safe and well-being, which currently you're going to hear shortly that there's a plan coming to you in the near future regarding safety and well-being. Solar farm, the new subdivision, industrial subdivision, again, is in the works too, and you may have some questions on that. Some of the big rocks, meaning some of the big areas of focus at that given time, include, again, asset management, community safety, the list goes on. As mentioned, financing, housing, industrial park developments, municipal energy hub, which has been a focus of the community for the last 4 or 5 years. Purchasing more land and solar farm developments. Interesting, council did make a slight adjustment to your values. Council's been really key on maintaining, having organizational onto your administration, but also have community values. So there was including additional words of belonging, inclusive, respectful within the values framework that we all hold dearly. So priorities long list. So it goes on, you can see the list there, and repeating a lot of that from funding, but more specifically, one thing I wanted to mention was the hiring of the EDO, which is often you don't hear council, we need this staff member that often come from administration, but council's been clear, we need to drive economics as part of our pillars of economics, environment, and social well-being. Economics has been really key on your priorities. So that position has been filled and has paid off highly, which just with this recent announcements with some of the investment in our community. So the short list is really maybe because there's only coming at the budget, and of course when you're left in term, here's some priority areas on the short list, but it's really up to you to set the priorities as you see fit. But asset management is, we've been identified as champions on asset management through operations staff, but also moving into the other departments, finance and community services. Aquatic Center, you're going to hear more of that condition in the upcoming weeks, I'd say, into the next month. Economic Development Officer, again, we can strike that off as a complete, but also EDO, meaning that we can now redefine focus in that area with a little bit more capacity with economic developments. The Energy Hub is tied into economic development, so from administration onto the Economic Development Committee, you're going to hear more dialogue in relation to the Energy Hub. Housing, as there is a report coming up to you today, just regarding next steps on housing within the community. I'll stop there, Council, before I go into the next section. Is there any questions or comments?
Anyone have any questions? No? Yes? Councillor
Thank you, Mayor
Dunlop, sorry.
Barkley. Just another comment. I think you hit the nail on the head there with saying that we had 1 year left. And I think that with our strategic priorities, that staying the course that we all discussed is a good idea unless something comes up. But I like what you've put together here, and I think it really bodes well for what we've done over the last 3 years and what we're going to try and do over the next year. So thank you for this.
And with that, we want to make sure we want to capture all the successes that you've achieved as council and all your direction leadership as part of just leading into budget, but also part of the successes that you've achieved as council. So just moving into the next page. So this is the current strat priorities as of July 2nd, 2024. So we have an updated one coming in next, but I just want to breeze through this. I want to ask for updates, but you may want to defer back and forth because we do have a few adjustments, but I'll just breeze through this. But if there's any questions on this, please just ask because there is, again, some slight changes. So for example, drought and water shortage plan has been rejigged a little bit to more on the conservative side. So you're going to see that shortly. Government relations strategy. So that one, based on your motion, that one would be considered complete. So it does open up council priority areas that, from your perspective, again, your priorities are really on the top shelf, but then it's supported administratively. So if you have something that you see as a key priority coming in, that'd be for you to talk about now and into the next several meetings. Tax policy review, we'll talk about with the next documents. Community safety and well-being plan, it's still there, but again, over the next, I'll give it 2 months, a little bit of grace there, but we're hoping to come to you with a draft later part of September, early October, with hopefully a almost complete document from an administrator perspective, and looking for your guidance if that's acceptable once you review that plan. Innisfil Energy Hub, you're going to notice it's not going to be identified on the next document. It's more tied into economic development, and I'll have the director speak to that once we get there, as well as the tax policy review. 2023 year end, we measured quite high, successful in the 2023 year end, so that'll be a complete and replaced by another project. Director of Corporate Services wanted to give you a little bit more detail coming up here shortly on the SEEP program, as well as Aquatic Center going through the list of all the key priority areas as part of their portfolios as senior management. So again, I'll stop there for a second before I go into the next document. Okay, I'll move into the new proposed strategic priorities with you, Council. So it's a drought and water conservation plan. So I'll just wait till we get down to the director. The director will speak to this one, what he sees as a focus, kind of ties into your expectations. So this is your wheelhouse, Council. Tax policy review, again, we'll talk about that shortly. Moving into the CAO area is again supporting the manager of fire protective services, complete that plan again over the next couple months. As you can see, there is a little bit of room for the CAO to take on more of your priority areas to see those through. So it does give you some window of movement. So I will move down into the respective departments. So I'd have the Director of Corporate Services just speak about your priority areas, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So the first one would be a tax policy review. So I have put a date to this now. So on September 23rd, next month, I will be bringing forward the outline and the scope of what I'll be asking council to approve for the review. This scope will likely include not mill rates as the dollar value, but more the classes, right? Like residential versus non-residential and how those can be broken out into subclasses. We'll likely look at interest rates as well, or put that out there to see if we want to look at interest rates and compare it to other municipalities, as well as payment terms and online payments specifically, just with how things are changing in the world and how do we want to deal with online payments in comparison to other municipalities as well. So that will come on September 23rd towards you guys. As the CAO identified, the 2023 year end has been completed and removed, and we now have added the 2025 budget as one of our priorities. And we do have a couple of outputs. First one, we did release already the budget survey. So that happened on August 6th. We do have a couple other dates. So September 10th, we will be attending the fall registration night with a booth to promote the budget survey and just have a chat with some local people. The budget survey closes on September 13th. We do have budget deliberation days. We don't have anything set in stone. We will come back to council with a request later, but normally that is 3 days in late November, with budget passing on December 9th. Okay, so then we do have the Clean Energy Improvement Program. I do actually have a PowerPoint that I'd like to go over just to kind of go over where we are and kind of what everyone's expectation is. So SEEP is Alberta's only PACE program, and PACE is Property Assessed Clean Energy. So that's how it's linked across Canada. And this is where the security and stability of a municipal tax program system is leveraged to support a property owner's repayments for clean energy improvements. So SEEP is different from other types of financing. So this financing is where property owners borrow funds from their municipality to pay for upgrades on their properties and pay the money back over time through their municipal property tax bill. It has been proven successful in many other jurisdictions in the United States and Canada. SEEP is also different from other financial instruments where the repayment mechanism, or what we call the Clean Energy Improvement Tax, is tied to the property and not to the property owner. So when the property owner sells their home or business, the new owner will take over the SEEP repayments while benefiting from the energy cost savings of the upgrades. However, there's also flexibility for the seller to pay off the SEEP taxes before selling the property, so there is flexibility in the program. The SEEP is tied to the property and has primary lien status. So that means that if someone defaults, we would get paid back first before mortgages, before any of those other things. And so far in Canadian history, no other PACE program has ever been found in default yet. Since SEEP is a municipally led program, municipalities get to choose whether they will offer the program. And one of the first steps to opting in is that your municipality must first pass a SEEP tax bylaw and then contact Alberta municipalities to deliver the program on our behalf. So Alberta Municipalities has identified a couple of reasons why SEEP is a good program and why property owners will use SEEP to get these upgrades. So it does provide flexible and affordable financing, as SEEP offers competitive interest rates where property owners can finance up to 100% of the project costs. It also has long repayment terms of up to 25 years. And the SEEP financing can be repaid at any time. There is no limits on if someone were to come into a bit of money, they can pay it back early. So they do offer some technical assistance. An EnerGuide home audit or an ASHRAE Level 2 energy audit is required for participation. This helps the property owner identify the most cost-effective upgrade opportunities. Technical support is also available from Alberta municipalities through the entire process, and they do all the training for qualified contractors to understand how SEEP works so they can support property owners with their applications. And there's also financing transferability. One of the reasons people don't tend to undertake these clean energy upgrades is due to the fact they may not know how long they're going to be living in their property. Some upgrades can last for 25 years or more. With SEEP, the financing again is tied to the property and not the property owner. So far, Alberta Munis has been asked if there has been any notified concerns at the time of property sales. And right now, no, they haven't found any, there's been no complaints or concerns, issues at the time of a sale when this would transfer over. AB Munis does expect that interest rates are going to be between 2% and 5% just due to the fact that municipalities are the one that will be undertaking the loans for them. So they are getting advantage based on our kind of interest rates that we'll be able to. Okay, so some of the program benefits that this has, it does increase local jobs by onboarding local contractors such as HVAC insulation, plumbing, and solar PV installers. It helps to support local businesses and boost local economic development. By installing efficiency and renewable energy upgrades, property owners leave the program with better buildings, thus creating a more resilient building stock. As the eligible upgrades are designed to improve a building's ability to cope with increases in extreme temperatures. Alberta has been seeing some extreme temperatures as evidenced during summer and winter seasons over the past few years. The upgrades are also designed to reduce energy costs for property owners. They will improve occupant comfort and indoor air quality, and it will typically increase your property value. The third benefit is that SEEP fosters deeper retrofits, leading to deeper energy savings, which in turn helps municipalities achieve their sustainability goals, as energy upgrades in residential and commercial properties will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And this one just is another one to show the advantages of all that. So there are a wide range of eligible upgrades for the program, including both energy efficiency and renewable energy upgrades. Some examples of these will include furnaces, windows, doors, insulation, and air sealing. Each project must increase energy efficiency or the use of renewable energy within your home. And all upgrades must be permanently affixed to the property. So because the financing is tied to the property, all the items must also be tied to the property. So things like appliances are not eligible. They have to be solar panels, a furnace, things like that that are permanent to your property. And a thing that is important to note is that financing is available for costs directly related to the project, as well as a small portion for indirect costs. So something such as roof repairs to support rooftop solar install or mold remediation during installation upgrades. However, the total cost of these incidentals can't be more than 15% of the total project. So this is the residential energy evaluation. So you do need that EnerGuide home evaluation or that that one, level 2 energy audit prior to submitting the application. And then a post-project evaluation are performed to verify the installation and energy savings. So SEEP does ensure that there are some consumer protections in place to help improve on deficiencies of previously impacted or implemented PACE programs. So contractors working on SEEP projects must first become qualified contractors, abiding by contractor terms and conditions, and are bound to the qualified contractor marketing guidelines. And this will do things like it explicitly prohibits statements such as your monthly energy savings from your SEEP project will cover your monthly clean energy improvement tax, because there is no link to that. There are also project financing maximums in place. So that means that the SEEP tax payment must be equal to or less than your total annual amount of property tax that you're paying for your property. So the SEEP tax cannot be more than double an owner's property tax. So an example, Mr. Smith paid $2,000 in property taxes this year. His SEEP payment cannot exceed $2,000. Another protection that is in place is that Alberta municipalities, as the program administrator, is required to explain agreement terms to property owners. And they will walk through the Clean Energy Improvement Agreement with the property owners before they sign. Property owners are allowed to cancel their project agreement from the date they enter into the contract for 10 days after receiving a copy of the contract, and there's no reason for them to cancel, they're just able to cancel. However, SEEP does require that property owners disclose their mortgage and any other property-linked debt at the time of application. They must also receive approval from their mortgage lender to participate, and the municipality checks to see if the property owner is in good standing on their property taxes. So the rule in legislation is that you have to have 5 good years of property tax standing for it to be eligible for the project. So that means you can't be in any arrears in any of the last 5 years. If you are a new resident to Innisfail, we must go to your past municipality and see what your tax history is there. If you have never been a property owner before, then the municipality in that moment can decide to do other ways to find out if you'd be eligible, like doing a credit check or other things, right? But the base one is 5 years of clean tax history. So the role of the program administrator, and again, this was identified by the Alberta government. So SEEP is a program that is owned by us, the municipality. However, the Government of Alberta designated Alberta municipalities as the provincial program administrator. That means that a municipality intending to participate in SEEP hires Alberta municipalities to fulfill specific functions that are outlined in legislation. So AB Munis will act as a central hub for the program, all participants, contractors, and municipalities. And all of this work will revolve around the website myseep.ca. So they are the go-between between everyone. And they also take on the bulk of the program administration once it's launched, including application and payment processing, managing the qualified contractors directory and website, and general customer service. So that's all dealt with Alberta municipalities. With one program administrator for all municipal programs in the province, there are efficiencies and cost savings in the program delivery. So the role of the municipality, there are three main roles that we have to do before program launch to offer SEEP to their residents. So number one is council must first pass a SEEP bylaw to establish the program and enable clean energy improvements. Then we must source the capital for the program, and this can be internal funds if we would like, or funds borrowed from a financial institution. Any borrowing made for the financing for clean energy improvements does not fall against our debt limit. And then once the bylaw is passed and capital for the program is sourced, the municipality will work with AB Muni staff to design and develop the materials and processing for the program. Gathering an internal SEEP team is early in the process, which we have already done on our end. Once the program is launched, Alberta municipalities and the municipality have very different responsibilities, with most of the day-to-day administration of the program falling to Alberta municipalities. A few of the key items that we would be responsible for, so is verifying that applicants are in good standing with their tax bills, preparing and executing the financing agreement, and then recording and collecting the clean energy improvement tax once a project has been completed and contractors have been paid. Okay, so how does it work? So this would, how would it work for a resident who looks to apply for that, right? So there's 5 major steps to completing a SEEP project in a municipality. So bylaw and financing. So the municipality works with Alberta municipalities after a bylaw is passed and funding is sourced to develop and launch the program. Once a program is launched, a property owner submits a pre-qualification. So if pre-qualified, so the participant and property are both deemed eligible, the applicant completes their home energy evaluation or their level 2 audit and selects upgrades and then their qualified contractors. The property owner then submits a full application with all the project information, and then if approved, the clean energy improvement, the financing and project agreements will be signed, and then qualified contractors begin the installation of the upgrades. Once upgrades are complete, the property owner submits upgrade completion documents to Alberta municipalities. Alberta municipalities will confirm completion, will complete a site visit if required, and they request the funds from the municipality and they pay the contractors. Once all upgrades are complete, the municipality will record the clean energy improvement tax on the property tax roll of the property owner. And then ideally, as funds are repaid through property taxes, this would then open up more funds back to being relent out in a future year. So just the annual SEEP tax payment calculated. And again, we have already talked about the SEEP payment cannot exceed the annual property tax amount. But one other item is that it actually cannot, the useful life, that there would be a determined useful life of each asset, and the term of your payments cannot exceed that useful life. So if you go to the next one, then we actually have a financing calculation. So what they would look at is, so the initial capital cost, any professional service cost and incidentals, and then that would be over top of the useful life, which in this example is 17 years, and it comes out to a $1,924 annual payment. This would not include any interest or the program administration fee. Okay, and then we have the last one, just road road to launch. So number one is note your formal commitment and move ahead with SEEP by sending us an email. Then they set us up with the site to start working on our bylaw. So we have gone through that step, and we are in the research stage of our bylaw. Create a municipal SEEP team to work together to make program decisions and create internal processes in preparation for the launch. So we've done that as well. So we do have to develop and pass a bylaw. So the requirements for the bylaw are laid out in the MGA and our SEEP regulations. They will help us by providing checklists and examples of other bylaws to help guide the process. AB Munis must approve the bylaw before it comes to council for approval. And once we get first reading, then they will add us into the next cohort, and then we'll get started on developing the program itself. And then once the bylaws pass, that's when we go through and source our funding. We can go through FCM funding or our own funding, or like we said, we can do it internal if we would like. Steps 5 and 6 do happen concurrently, so detailed program design entails, the program terms, drafting the financing agreements, and making important program decisions, as well as developing targeted marketing, communications, and engagement materials. We want to start with contractor engagement 6 to 8 weeks before applications open to ensure that local contractors are prepared for the launch to participants. There is a process for local contractors to become qualified contractors, and AB Munis wants to support this and make sure that we give them enough time that before the program launched, they're already kind of ready and waiting to go, right? The typical time frame, so for FCM, if we are applying for FCM funding, we're looking at about a year's time from now before it is a fully functioning program. If we are applying for other financing that is not through FCM, we're looking at a 4 to 6 month process. It just depends on what we would like. So the SEEP team at Alberta Municipalities is currently at full capacity supporting municipalities that have passed SEEP bylaws and are in active cohorts working on developing programs. So if Innisfil approves staff time to work on the SEEP bylaw and passes the first reading of the bylaw, will be added to the list of municipalities to begin program development. Groups of cohorts that have passed bylaws will be engaged by Alberta municipalities every 5 to 6 months to begin working on their programs. So once we have a bylaw passed, which we're hoping will be sometime in September or early October, then our name will get on the list for cohorts, and then we'll have to wait until they reach out to us for 4 to 5 months before we can do that. The cohort model, they've used this model because it allows them to effectively support all municipalities moving through the program and provide a peer support network for us municipalities. We're working on developing the program. So does anyone have any questions on SEEP?
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I do have one. Hopefully I haven't missed a detail there. So you said that the landing doesn't contribute to the maximum debt of the municipality. Is there guidelines, though, as to how big of SEEP funding pool you might create?
So Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Bates. So there is some legislated maximums on what we would allow, say, a residential person to borrow, and that is $50,000 legislated. Through the development of the bylaw, we will come to you with what we would recommend for those maximums to be, because they can be lower than what legislated is, as well as how many SEEP do we want to give out in any 1 year. We are going to identify that we have 10 in a year that we want to authorize, and it will be 10 a year, and it will just be an application process to do
So that would be determined by us?
Yes, so that will be determined in the bylaw, and we'll come to you to get some of the details before we bring to you first reading to help design the bylaw, and that will include all of those financing terms in there.
So would you also create a ceiling?
Yes.
A total?
Yes, we
like
would be
if there's 10 per year or whatever, you'd say there's going to be a ceiling on how much?
That's
debt.
correct. We'll likely bring to you saying we would like to borrow $2 million, and we're gonna say we're gonna offer 10 a year up until that's capped out. And as people pay it back, it would give more to be re-released.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Heistad.
No, Your Worship, thanks. Councillor Bates asked some great questions there. I guess my question is both for Director Vickers and Director Jenkins on, I think last year we had 13 solar panels that were built or actually have been approved in the past year. I was just curious as to what that potential would be, as well as how much we'd be borrowing, so.
I believe to date in 2024, we've approved about 18 residential
wow.
solar installs. So whether we would want to look at those statistics and considering how many we accommodated in a year. And they may not all be solar panels, I think.
Yeah, it may
They
be.
could be other home improvements.
Okay, yeah, just, that was my question about where we'd go with that ceiling, and then appreciate the presentation. It gives us an indication of, you know, the potential and how we can utilize local contractors. So thanks, Director Vickers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to Director Vickers and to my fellow council members. Some great questions. I guess one of the things that I'm looking at, it sounds like a great program, and I look forward to what you bring back to us. But I wonder about the Canadian Greener Homes loan that the federal government offers for $40,000 over 10 years for zero interest. And if there's people in our community that perhaps don't know about that and would be going to this, is there a way for us to make sure that they have potentially gone for that option? Because we would still be obviously entertaining the trades in the town to do that work, but that, to me, you know, is 0% interest over 10 years is much more advantageous for our homeowners to utilize than this. So is there a way that potentially we could communicate that information as well? Because I'm not sure how long the federal program is going on for, but.
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Dunham, like absolutely, we can share that information in conjunction with the same information, right? Because we would be happy if you get the money from the federal government at a 0% rate, or if you borrow it from us at, we wouldn't be offering 0%, but something, right? Absolutely. Yeah, that would be a better way to get more people funding as well.
Thank you.
And Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and through to Director Vickers. I appreciate the need for us to be able to pull some resources together for the creation of the internal SEEP team to get this whole thing put together. This is an enormous project, and it's, yeah, it's very interesting. My question is, relative to other communities that are currently involved in this, what kind of capacity will we require moving forward to administer it?
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Wing. So that is something that we have to look at internally, and we will be bringing that recommendation to you, and that will be based on how many claims we want to do in a year, and that will be based on our own capacity. And if we would like more, we'll have different conversations, but definitely we'll look at how much work it's going to entail per application, and then provide you a recommendation on how many applications we think we should have in a year. I will say most municipalities that we've done are 5, 6 to 8 a year. It's not many.
Okay, and yes, Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to Director Vickers. Curious about this standard lifespan, the standard effective useful life. Is there kind of a, how does that get determined?
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Mazzaro. So I'm not aware of that yet, but Alberta Municipalities does have some set standards. It would be a solar panel likely will live for 25 years. And that's likely what it is, but I will get some more further information on that, on how they determine the useful life in the process, so.
Thank you. That was a very interesting presentation and extremely informative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Director Vickers, I'm wondering when you bring this back to us, if you could also bring some data. You know, this program has been out in Alberta for a few years now, and it'd be interesting to see how many communities are doing this and what is the ceiling. And I know everybody will be different because everybody's a different size, but are communities finding that they are oversubscribed? Because I have seen that they are quite often. And I think, you know, it's a good program. Let's view it from the homeowner and helping a homeowner upgrade their home, whether it's windows or furnaces or whatever, to reduce energy costs. And
That's right.
yeah, for sure. So if you could bring back that whenever you update more of this for us. So, CO Becker?
I'm not on
Okay,
the seat,
sorry.
but
Okay.
we're just moving on.
Okay.
It's right on Brush Council.
I just have 2 more here. So I do have my policy and bylaw updates. You will see that 2 here will likely come off now because they will be dealt with on this meeting. And then I did add another one with the 2025 election. And I just added it because we do have a few items that do need to be dealt with before the end of the year. We do have our new election bylaw that must be passed before December 31st this year. And we are also going to be doing an election sign bylaw review just to see if there are any amendments needed. That will also have to happen before the end of the year. We do have our nomination period that starts January 1st and goes to September 20th. And then we have some advanced election days, which will come out in the bylaw, with then the election day happening on October 20th.
Great. So for the questions, we'll move it on to the Director of Operations, Director Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So first item is the drought and water conservation plan. So I guess just through further discussion, and since the commission did come up with a draft water management plan, I guess what we looked at revising this is into terms of a water conservation plan, which would incorporate our water conservation bylaws and incentives, as well as recognizing a drought management plan that's been drafted and how that conservation plan works in relation to. So we did look at rewording that a little bit. If the council's okay with that, we'll move forward with drafting a plan up for your review in the fourth quarter. In regards to the 2024 capital projects, yeah, they really went well this year. We are just finalizing final inspections. One last outstanding project is the Highway 54 speed reduction. We just finalized that. Final approval from Alberta Transportation, reduce that speed limit, as well as getting the crossing done here in September sometime. So that is proceeding well. Capital projects, I think, have gone well this year. We'll provide a further update on that during the financial updates. Southwest Industrial Park is completely done. Underground, surface, shallows are all done. In regards to that project, the only outstanding would be a second lift of asphalt, with plans of not completing that until 50% of the lots or till required. Really, we'll look at finalizing that. Southwest the industrial park, solar farm, that is in with AUC approvals, but it has been put on hold until we have our independent assessment completed, which is underway right now. So that is happening. So we are looking to hopefully have that completed here in the fourth quarter, and then we can move into finalizing the approvals with AUC in the first and second quarters of next year, with construction and operation in the third and fourth. Asset management, it's kind of an ongoing process where we continue to update our data, as well as incorporating facilities into the plan, and then updating every year. We look at an update to the 5 and 10 year, and just incorporating any changes through new assessments going on there. So we will come to you with an update on that one. I think that was it. Yep.
Okay. From the community services side, we continue to focus on housing. So the completion of the MDP plan update is a major priority through the fall here, hopefully with the committee working through the draft and public consultation with adoption of that in the early new year. As well, lots of work and focus on the Napoleon Lake South land development. So a lot of the approvals and those processes coming in the next couple of months, and then sort of pending budget determinations, how that will impact work plans into 2025. Continuing to work with the Southwest Industrial Land Sales, so 2 of the 8 lots have been secured or sold, and continuing to work on marketing plans and work there with the addition of our EDO, increasing that focus on economic development. So we're working to scope and potentially put together a project for the future of the energy hub, and how that will continue to play out, not only in the industrial park, but sort of community-wide. As council is aware, we're working with other communities in the region on a business retention expansion workforce development project. So a fair bit of legwork in the coming months on that in terms of engaging businesses to respond to surveys, doing a business walk and different engagements with businesses. As well, looking to move into an update of our Power of Place ECDEV strategy. It's sort of targeted to the end of 2024. So going through the identified actions and tactics there and making adjustments and updates as needed for the coming years. The Aquatic Center project, we are working to complete more detailed facility evaluations at the existing pool. The pool will actually be drained this coming weekend, with those tests being completed next week. So council will be hearing from us later in September into October as we build the scope out on that project and put together some potential funding opportunities. Then looking into recreation culture, we do have the draft public consultation report back from the art consultant, so that will be coming back to council and then moving on to the implementation steps for that. We'll also have draft community grant and sponsorship policies coming back to council in September. Council will recall we did a bit of a workshop conversation earlier in the summer about how to improve those projects or processes and policies. And then potentially, again, based on budget, looking into some master planning work in 2025. And then the ongoing capital projects for 2024. So I believe CAO Becker mentioned we'll have a more detailed sort of rundown on where all of those projects are for council next week.
So with that, council, if there's any questions regarding this information, what's presented to you, but it's recommended that just receive this report as information. We'd like to bring back the draft priorities to you and budget objective suggestions in the forthcoming meeting. So just as information would be a recommendation at this given time.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about anything? No? Okay, just a couple of things. On the community safety and well-being, I know that's top of mind, is having a safe community. And, you know, there certainly seems to be a lot of things going on right now in the community that are not good. And curious if maybe we could have a, I don't know, but I realize we're governance, we're not in operations, but you know, some kind of a report, or we have our citizens on parole out there, are they still looking for people, and how can we enhance community safety with some of the things that we're seeing right now that seem to be busier than typical. And maybe that's just a perception of mine and not reality, but.
Mayor Barclay, I think your perception is pretty bang on for what I'm hearing. You did hear from the staff sergeant recently, and like globally and over a longer period of time, we're pretty solid with some of the data and measurements. But over just recently, there has been a few items. Certainly, with your advice, we can certainly bring in the manager as well as staff sergeant perhaps, and have more detailed conversation of what is occurring right now. There's a few things that have bubbled up that council may want more awareness on.
Yeah, I would like, do you want a motion for that, CEO Becker, or you will just arrange that for?
We'll arrange it, Mayor
future
Barclay,
meeting?
just as a administrative update to you.
Okay, thanks. And then I just want a reminder from Director Kennedy. So on the solar project that's going on that undevelopable piece of land, shall we call it, in the new industrial part, the projected revenue on that again is?
Based on when we presented to you, it was around the 600,000 a year mark.
Okay. Plus carbon credit trading of 100 or so $700,000 in revenue for the community. Okay, perfect, thanks. Any other questions? Sorry, Councillor.
I apologize,
Wayne.
Mayor Barclay. I just wanted to ask through to CAO Becker just a quick comment or question relative to our asset management, and given what we're seeing relative to major infrastructure failure in lots of communities. I wonder when we have our conversation about asset management, if we can have a bit of a picture as to the state of age, and I know that it's in the plan, so just a reminder as to sort of where we sit.
Mayor Barclay, to Councillor Wang, and I'll include the director, but the idea is today is you're going to receive a report on reserves policy, which kind of ties into funding of capital and infrastructure updates, replacements, et cetera. Part of the budgetary process is to give you more detail on the asset management plan and the conditions. And Director, is that fair to say?
Yeah, and part of our yearly review of the 5 and 10-year capital is we take into account some of the situations that have happened this year, which then we have to go through the model and reevaluate. And then we'll come to you and show you how that's affected that model. That'll happen as we get into budget here and in progress. And if it does affect, a dramatic change, then we will obviously come back to you and show you how that service level gets adjusted. We do try and present it every 3 years, but if we do have years where we have a lot of things happening, if it creates maybe more of a priority, we'll come back to you sooner and show you how it's adjusted our service.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, no, I want to thank, our administration, CO and staff, our administration, as well as our leader, Mayor Barclay, and our team. This shows that we're very focused the last 3 years. And that's what, I think is great that we have a full gallery, almost a full gallery. It shows that we're, these are our intentions for the next 4 years, and we're doing a great job. So I would like to make a motion, if that works for you, to approve the Town of Innisfail midterm priority setting document as information.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? No, all in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you for that report. That was very thorough and much appreciated. So we'll move on to 5.4, Council Action Control. And I think, CEO Becker, can we move back up again? I know I keep going back to the TELUS thing. I'm assuming we've had nothing from...
Mayor Barclay, we had a little bit.
Oh, a little bit, okay.
So, Council, just to remind you, it's ongoing. We've developed really good relationships with service providers, ADCO, Fortis, et cetera. TELUS is another big player within our community. We've been trying to reach out to receive feedback and have them come to you. It wouldn't hurt. I might prep you, Mayor Barclay, just a little nudge, a little higher up. We did respond. There has been some changeover, but really not rushing out to engage with us. So I might chat with you if council's okay and engage with the mayor to really poke at having to tell us come before you.
That's what I was going to ask you, if I could be of any assistance, and maybe a letter or something that...
I think it's appropriate, Mayor Barclay.
Somebody. Okay, thank you. And anything else on here anybody has a question about? Or if not, we'll just have somebody make a question.
I had a question.
Okay.
Just the aquatic tours, do we know when we may be doing those, CO Becker?
It's on the action control. If council wants us to see them, we can start that anytime. Just confirming what's best for council. Is it fall now? Probably now better than dead winter, of course. So just that green light that you wish to advance this action as a priority, that's all I would need, and then we can start setting that up.
Okay, my understanding was that we were kind of waiting till the aquatic center report was complete, which should be soon.
Sure.
And then we can kind of see what direction we're going, and
Sounds good.
yeah. But if you want to go, we can go, but...
We'll wait. I can
Okay,
wait.
for sure. Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
So we'll have a motion to accept the council action control as presented. Councillor Dunham?
Mayor Barclay, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into 6.1 on the bike park facility master plan with Director Kennedy, please.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. So this is kind of the first step in that master plan process. So back in May, the council approved us to move forward with a master plan for a bike park facility within town. This is in collaboration with the Innisfail Rotary Club. In July, we met with the Hoots team to review possible bike locations throughout town. The intent was to look at various locations, so we did provide 8 green space, open field locations, as well as 2 playground locations with open green space for the team to review. The team would look at options to have various bike skill areas and features in several locations, or look at an all-in-one greater bike skills park facility, as well as possible trail tie-ins into the existing trail network. So, as part of the evaluation, really 7 criteria were looked at. First is regarding location, site access. Second one is existing and surrounding use, facilities. Third, existing conditions, terrain, slope, drainage, and infrastructure. They rated an overall scale, just in regards to the terms of the town and use of preference priority, potential development opportunities. They looked at site preparation, materials, and building notes. And then looked at just the general considerations for each site for favorable location, development, and challenges. As part of the matrix, they did include an estimated, just really an order of magnitude cost for the type of facility that would fit that location that they saw being kind of appropriate. So the matrix does show the locations and kind of the top ranked areas being Napoleon Park. Second is the soccer field, that's beside the skate park and beside the historical village. The BMX track area, they ranked the Max and Cannon, that's the latest, the 2 newest playgrounds that we've just built. They looked at the outdoor rink that's over on kind of the west part of town. And then a few other locations, just random locations that we owned property, and then we did look at 2 private land locations over by Res 2 that we thought may be potential for location as well. In part of the review, so we are recommending 4 of the top 5 proceed to the next step within the process, and that includes the soccer field, the BMX track, and the 2 playground areas. To provide more detail on what those areas would really look like in a rendering situation. It was administration's recommendation to not look at location, the top ranked location, which is the sports fields at this time, mainly due to uncertainty of the overall development of that area, be it the multiplex, the new pool, as well as it would require relocation of facilities. So we really looked at putting that on the back burner. Still ranked high, it does give a good opportunity for the area, but that can be identified, I guess, keep it in that we have identified it as a potential use. Some of the next steps in regards to this master plan would be to come back to council with some renderings for these 4 locations. So what does it look like? We've got an order of magnitude of cost now. And then take those renderings, once they're approved, into an open house type of gathering in order to get some community feedback in regards to those areas. And then in 2025, we would look at taking the highest priority, kind of primary site location that we get from feedback from that council, from the community, come up with a primary site, maybe it's 2 sites. Really, we take the feedback there, get it together, and then we get into some detailed design the following year in 2025, which with some hope that we get into construction in the fall here, so of 2025. So that's kind of the plan of where we're at with this. I guess if council has any questions in regards to the sites or in regards to next steps, I'm open for some feedback.
Okay, thank you, Director Kennedy. I'm wondering if, what you would think about Hoots coming in and doing a presentation to council.
Yep.
I think that would be interesting. We did that with the skate park when that was getting underway, or I guess pre-skate park days, and I thought it was good to, have the company present to ask some questions. And I think the community engagement is so important. That there's some very accomplished bike people here in the community, and as well as the general community, but I think there would be some really good feedback from some community members that that is their space, and so, yeah, thanks. It's interesting. Councillor Heistad?
Thanks, Your Worship. To Director Kennedy, I thought this report was excellent. I thought it was great. I'm looking forward to seeing the next steps of it. You know, I think most of my council members would, you know, I like the field trip, right? And I think it'd be great to see some of the sites with whoever is going to be working on it, but I see this a lot of potential, and I would agree with Mayor Barkley on the process of the previous skate park. I think that the skate park's so well utilized. So, no, thanks a lot. It was a great. I think Hoots did an awesome job with you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, I think, I don't have to tell you this, but I think the other thing to keep in mind as we continue to grow, you know, we keep shoving things into parks and green spaces, and, you know, we need to be careful that passive recreation doesn't get pushed out, or we have space for recreation, and I think that's a really important topic that we need to address going forward, and ensuring that, you know, things aren't squished in, and there's more and more and more added, and pretty soon, then where do you go? So I think this is a huge topic, and very important one for our community going forward. So if there's no
Mayor
further...
Barkley?
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't see your light on,
I was
sorry.
fighting with my light, it's good, I'm on. Thank you for the report, for sure. I appreciate the vision, and I'm getting more and more interested in this all the time. I do have one request as we get ready for budget, and given that we do have a bit of a picture now of potential costs, can we add this to our unfunded priorities list so that we start our budget work in November, we've got it there, it doesn't get lost? Thank you.
Okay, I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the matrix location report. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'd like to move that council accepts the matrix location report as information.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move into 7.1, the financial reserve policy with Director Vickers.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with the draft financial reserves policy for your review and approval. So reserves are one of the most important tools available to municipalities for achieving financial sustainability and flexibility. Reserves not only assist municipalities in managing risks, but they also play a role in the financing of capital costs and the provision of affordable and stable services to residents. So we do have a policy, 1995-002, minimum capital reserves. This policy is from 1995 and is vastly outdated. Administration, we have developed a new financial reserves policy for council to review and approve, and the draft is attached to this report. And you can see that I am asking for a second motion to repeal this older policy. So the purpose of the attached draft policy is to establish the standards and guidelines for the management of existing reserves, as well as the establishment of new reserves, and to outline the purpose of each reserve and parameters regarding the use of the reserves. So the objectives within the policy are to establish, maintain, and manage reserve funds that provide for emergent financial needs. They are to stabilize tax and utility rates in times of changes, to set aside funds for the replacement of existing equipment, facilities, and future projects, as well as minimizing the debt financing needs of the municipality. Through this process, a full review of each reserve has been completed, and administration is recommending going from 38 reserves down to 13 reserve accounts. I have attached a reserve account detail sheet, and it shows the combination of each reserve and how they were rolled up into what reserve. Schedule A of the reserve policy lists the reserves within each of the categories. Reserve descriptions attached to the draft policy have been developed for each reserve, and each of them outlining the following. So the reserve name, the type of reserve, the purpose of the reserve, the source of funding. It has identified an optimal balance if appropriate, the application, and interest treatment. So optimal balances are based on common best practices, and determination of the value of optimal balances does need to be further developed to actually link it to the 10-year capital plan. Reserves that are lower than their established optimal balance should be considered in the distribution of the annual operating surplus. Strategies to maintain the optimal balance will be addressed through the annual budget cycle each year. So I did do a list of each of the new reserves with their optimal balance and how we get that kind of number. So the first one is just a contingency reserve. So the common practice out there that it is just a percentage of your prior year's operating expenses. Identifiably, it's higher in most other places at a 4 or 5%, but we've identified a 2.5%, and that sits around $675,000 for the optimal balance on that reserve. So general capital reserve, and you can see that this is how the optimal balance is designed for most of the reserves here. So we do look at the annual average of the 10-year capital funding requirements, that is to pull money out of this reserve. And then we were going to add that to any current specific project allocations that we've identified to come out of that reserve through some sort of council budget approval. And that's how we determine the optimal balance of that reserve. Each year through the budget cycle, we will be bringing you the updated balances through the budget cycle so that you guys will be approving the 10-year capital plan, and that will then link to the reserves policy on how much we should be saving for. So the big one here is the facility capital replacement reserve. So this is not for maintenance and upkeep. This is for true replacement of the facilities. So this one will have the 50-year capital plan funding requirements. And I will say that it's not the annual average, it's the annual plus the annual plus the annual. It will be a continued savings. So it's the average annual added each year that it's coming. So one year it could be $500,000 if it's $500,000 is the average annual cost. Next year will be $1 million, the year after will be 1.5.
May I ask a question while we're on that subject? So the facility capital replacement, 50-year capital plan, but what happens if you're 30 years behind?
Yes, Mayor Barkley, that will be a discussion that we have once we identify all the buildings and what target years they need to be replaced in. We will then bring that to council for their review, for your guys' review, because it likely will be a little bit behind from where we should be saving.
Yeah,
so
I
we'll
think
have to develop a plan on how to get back up to where we need to be.
I think it's such an important number and really eye-opening when we think about the age of the arena. We know the aquatic center has issues and...
Well, and even Mayor Barkley, when do we need a second fire hall? When
Yes.
do we need more lift stations, more reservoirs, things like that as well, right?
for
As the
sure.
population increases, our capital plan requirements are going to increase as
Yeah,
well.
no, for sure, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Bates has a question.
Yeah, the question I have is that trying to determine how much that reserve should be by adding the annual. So what happens though once you spend one and it wipes out a good portion of it?
Yes, Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates. So we'll have a full Excel sheet of all the different capital plans and the year their cost we're supposed to be buying in. Then that will create an annual average. When we spend one, that will come out of the capital plan, so it will just rejig the new optimal balance. And hopefully by us taking it out, the optimal balance should stay the same because now this capital project is no longer in there.
So that would then keep those individual things like the pool or whatever would still be identified
That's correct.
within this. So even though you're creating one reserve,
Yes.
this one, you're going to still have that little block with it. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, Councillor Bates. It will just be one savings account that we list all the different properties, rather than having a reserve identified for each specific building. We're just lumping them all together now.
And Director Vickers, I'm assuming an inflationary component would be added. And
Yes,
would
Mayor.
that be reviewed annually? I mean, when we look what we went through in 2021, you know,
Mayor Barkley, yes, we would
high
have to do
inflation.
like an accretion expense each year, make sure that we are truing up
Okay.
to, in 2065, when we have to spend $25 million, well, in 10 years, that's going to be a much different number. So we will be doing it through the budget process. We might do it a standard 2.5% or whatever, like the cost of living would be, things like that. We would definitely be doing that, yes. Okay, so the rest of the reserves are there for optimal balances. As you can see that a lot of them are pretty standard. The land acquisition and servicing does not have an optimal balance. With the cemetery, we do have kind of, it is a cemetery, it's being paid for by perpetual care funds. That's why it is kind of in its own. So we do have the annual average 10-year capital plan funding requirements. This would be new columbariums, new blocks opening up in the cemetery, but we also have to account for future cemetery site planning and what that cost looks like, as well as any just specific project allocations. As you can see, the next four do not have optimal balances. They're very specific restricted reserves that are very tied to a very specific item. And then we have our two utility reserves that are separated out because they are utilities and they are self-funded and they do not pull any tax funding. So we have identified those reserves in a separate account. So interest earnings are intended to be applied to reserves if there are external requirements are being imposed by legislation or agreements, or administration has decided that they are required to assist in offsetting the effects of inflation or meeting the stated purpose of the reserve. So in our review, we have identified 4 different reserves that will now become interest accruing reserves. So the land acquisition and servicing, the in lieu, offsite levy, and joint use. So at the end of the year, during the year-end process, we will identify the prorated proportionate amount of interest that those reserves have identified, and that will get put into the reserves by the end of the year. Sustainability can be achieved if both the town's capital infrastructure assets and financial assets can be managed over the long term. This policy will guide the town of Innisfil to establish reserve funds to ensure the long-term financial stability and flexibility, to position the town to respond to economic conditions and changes affecting the town's financial position, as well as to ensure the organization has the ability to continuously carry out its responsibilities. By properly monitoring the age and condition of the town's infrastructure and developing a long-term plan for maintenance and replacement, the town will increase accountability and efficiency in both managing their assets, improving their service levels. Municipal financial reserves are necessary to ensure that Innisfil can invest in needed infrastructure that can support Innisfil's economy and a healthy, thriving community, as well as having the strong financial foundation in place to adapt to changes in the economy and continue to provide services that residents and businesses rely on. So the operating budget must include the estimated amounts to be transferred to reserves, so that's written in the policy, which we do annually anyway. And the operating budget presented to council will include a document outlining total transfers to reserves and estimates withdrawals for the year, so we do normally send that as well as annually optimal balances will be updated as the 10-year capital plan is updated. And the annual capital plan and 10-year capital plan will identify reserves as funding sources when we've identified them. Reporting on the town's reserves will happen quarterly to council through the quarterly financial reporting. However, reserve projections regarding contributions and withdrawals, they really only get used once a year, so we will report quarterly, but the major changes happen kind of once a year. So I'll take any questions that council may still have.
Okay, Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I have a couple. Back to the reserve accounts that will have interest earnings. You've listed the 4.
Yes.
So the other accounts are going to generate interest. Where does that go?
So Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates. So that interest income sits in our operating account, in our operating budget. So we do have a line item. I'm not sure of the amount right off the top of my head.
Okay.
I believe it's around that $600,000 mark. The more interest we take out of that account, because all that money is coming essentially from the reserves in our bank account. If we take a lot of that investment income and take it out of there and put it into the reserves, we will now have to find that.
No, it just doesn't say
somewhere
here where that, because
Yeah, so that
they'll
will sit
still
in our
generate it.
operating. Absolutely.
Okay, and the other one was, I guess, back to the, just a minute, I gotta find that one. It was the account that I was discussing earlier that had all the recreation facilities.
The facility capital
Right.
replacement.
So if you create a new one, like this bike park, does it then just get in there and start taking away from the others when you, yeah,
Absolutely. So Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates. So we'll develop a 50-year plan of our current facilities, and that will generate a certain dollar amount per year that we need to save. When we add in a new facility, that will increase that payment, right? So let's say it's $500,000 we need to save. By adding this new bike track and we deem, okay, in 75 years, we need to replace this. So that's kind of the cost or the time frame that we're accounting for. We will then identify that increase in cost of what it would cost us over 75 years to save up, so that when that comes, we can just replace that in 75
But what
years.
about to create it in the first place? Because when we created the skate park, we did it from a reserve. We worked a reserve up, and then we spent it and created the skate park. So you would start a new one in there for
Yes.
the bike park?
Absolutely. If we wanted to save up for a new project, whether it's the bike park or some other new
Okay.
facility that we were saving,
No, I
we
understand.
would identify that as a, yes.
Previous answer, I do understand that you would start
Yes.
figuring out when it was going to wear out and do it again, but, okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Vickers, just a question about fleet capital replacement and utility fleet.
Yes.
What's the difference?
So Mayor Barkley, our utility department is not funded by tax dollars, so any of the equipment for the utility department is funded here, and that is funded specifically from utility rates, fees, things like that.
So in our fleet, our utility fleet, we have really two pieces of equipment that are identified in there. That's our hydrovac and our flush truck, and those are directly funded through that utility fleet.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, Councillor Wing?
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor Barkley, and through to Director Vickers. So the work that is happening then around the capital replacement, the facility capital replacement reserve, going back to the presentation that we had from the auditors when we had our annual statements presented to us, is this sort of the result of that work? Like, does that put us in the place where we need to be compliant relative to those numbers?
So Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Wing, so what they were referencing when they came into the presentation was asset retirement obligations. And asset retirement obligations, from their point of view, are not, when we replace this building, it's not that. It's if we have a building that has asbestos in it and there is a financial cost in 25 years that we have to remediate that cost, what is it and how much is it cost? And that now has to be identified. So it is replacementing, but it's more if it's bad stuff. Like if we had an x-ray machine or asbestos or lead paint, things like that, that had to be remediated in a special way.
And so what reserve would we be considering that level of work in?
So that is not in any of these reserves yet. So we're still going through the process for asset retirement obligations, and we will bring to you what that report looks like at the end of the day and what kind of costing that looks like. And we will likely either create a separate reserve for that, or we will incorporate it into one of these reserves and get it onto the capital plan. So.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'll just have somebody please make the two motions, so please have someone make the first motion. Councillor Bates.
I'll move that council approves the 2024-004 financial reserves policy.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. And then second motion, Councillor Heistad.
That council repeals number 1995-002 minimum capital reserves guidelines.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Yes, so we'll have, our planner, Pallavi, will walk you through the first reading for bylaw 1470A85.
Mayor and Council, today I'm here with an application to amend the land use zoning of a property along 56th Street at 5152 from residential multifamily district R3 to residential single-family district R1B. The applicant desires to construct a new single detached residence on the property, which is not allowed under its current zoning of R3. And the applicant has no interest in constructing a multi-unit dwelling on this property. On the background report, the subject property is shown on the next page, highlighted in green. There is currently a single detached dwelling and a detached garage on the property. The R3 district is predominantly the land use form within it. The area is R3 district, surrounding areas, and the R3 lends itself to various forms of land tenure ranging from rental to fee simple condominium developments. Administration does not believe this is the best use of land, given the limited number of subdivided and serviced parcels that are zoned as residential multifamily district R3 that are of a sufficient size to accommodate multi-unit developments. An earlier amendment to the land use bylaw resulted in the adjacent parcel to the east of this parcel, changing from residential multifamily R3 to residential single-family district R1B. The 2023 Housing Needs Assessment report identified that there was an unmet demand for 31 units in the multifamily dwelling category, including apartments, row housing, movable dwellings, and total of 43 units over the next 7 years is seen to be required to meet the expected growth projection. Changing the changing the zoning of this property to create a parcel suitable for single detached dwelling does not fit within the aspirations of the Housing Needs Assessment Report, where there are already existing subdivided and serviced single detached dwelling lots available elsewhere in the community. So finally, while administration does not support the land use change application, it is recommending the granting of first reading of to bylaw 1470A85 and establishing a public hearing date to allow for appropriate public consultation on this proposal. So council, we have two motions in front of you. First of the first reading to the bylaw and second of the public hearing date.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I'll please have someone make the first motion. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barkley, I move that council grants first reading to bylaw number 1470-A85, being a bylaw to amend the land use zoning of property legal described as Plan 5141 TR Block 10 Lot 22, and specifically described as 5152-56th Street from residential multi-family district to R-3 to residential single-family district R-1B.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about this? No, all in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. And then please have someone make the second motion for the public hearing.
Mayor
Councillor Wing.
Barkley? Yes, thank you. I would move that council establishes September 23rd, 2024 as the date to hold a public hearing to receive input on bylaw number 1470-A85, beginning at 3 p.m. in the council chambers of the town office located at 4943 53rd Street, Innisfil, Alberta.
All right, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into 9.1, correspondence and information. Thank you, Pallavi. So, CEO Becker, did you want to mention anything about the ATCO agreement? Or?
I think the Director Vickers could just explain
sure.
what that
Yeah.
is. Yeah, please, Director.
Yes, absolutely. Mayor Barkley, there have been some recent changes to the Utilities Affordability Statutes Amendment Act of 2024. And in that, there is a section that the Gas Utilities Act, it does now state that a franchise granted by a municipality to an owner of a gas utility that has not been approved by the AUC after coming into force will terminate. So we do have to go through the process to have AUC approve our franchise agreement. I have already reached out to ATCO, and they have provided us with a step-by-step instruction, well, attached in this letter. What we have to do is we really just have to put out a notice in the local paper for a period of 1 or 2 weeks, hold it for feedback, and provide that back to ATCO. They'll provide that to the AUC, and as long as no changes were made, they will just reapprove our franchise agreement. This does not impact any changes on if we wanted to increase or decrease the franchise through the budgetary process either. So this will be happening, we'll probably be putting it out in a week or two out for advertisement, and then go from there. I did also reach out to Fortis to see if there was any changes in that franchise agreement, and it is set up a little bit different than the ATCO one was, so there is actually no changes that we have to do for Fortis. So.
All right, thank you. Could I please have someone make a motion to accept the correspondence as information? Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barkley, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? No, all in favor? All right, carried. Thank you. And we will move into council reports, and we'll begin with Councillor Heistad.
Your worship, do not have a written report, but I was going to say that I attended the Lantern Festival briefly, car show, and this upcoming week's pretty busy with tours, local business tours, as well as Energy Hub, as well as, I think there's one other item in there off the top of my head, but just, that's all I have to report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And flip my page over here, Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Last couple of weeks, as far as placements on committees and that, has been fairly quiet. I did attend the Lantern Festival as well as the Kinsman car show yesterday, which was fabulous. And yeah, as Councillor Heistad said, we do have a busy week ahead of us with a number of different engagements.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Also kind of quiet couple of weeks from the last time we reported. I attended the Canadian Junior Golf Championship welcome reception, the RCMP and EMS barbecue, Innisfil Hotel restaurant opening, the Lantern Festival. And like my colleagues have said, it's a busy week coming up with engagements.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Last week actually attended the Parkland Regional Library Systems Executive Committee meeting in Lacombe. Just a note, or just to be aware that there have been some changes to legislation that impact the public library and the public library systems. I'll have those details for you at our next council meeting. I'll have it in writing. Also, the Innisfil Library Board Chair has resigned, and so the board will be meeting in September as per our upcoming events. Everything is under control, everything is fine, but that's just a change in leadership at the library here in town. Yes, busy week coming up, and also just a big thank you to the volunteers who put events like the Lantern Festival and the Kinsman Car Show as activities in our community. They were so well attended. Kudos to whoever arranged the weather, because it might have been a little blowy on Saturday, but it was still a pretty darn nice weekend. So thanks to everyone that's involved with those kinds of events. You make our community better.
Right, thank you. And Councillor Bates?
Okay, so back on the August 12th, I did have a written report, but we didn't get to it, but that was fine. I did attend the August 13 RCMP barbecue as part of that committee. I've really had no committee meetings since. The Mountain View Water Commission had already canceled their July meeting, and between the CAO and the chairman, they canceled August, and so we will have one in September, and that's, yeah, I didn't have one in August. Same as my counterparts, the Lantern Show and the Car Show, attended, and looking forward to the rest of this busy week.
Okay, thank you. And Juanita, I don't know if you can put my report up on the screen or not, but so it's up there. I did do a presentation on waste to energy to the MCC AC group on, I don't know, Friday, I think that was. So it was interesting that apparently Canmore trucks their waste to Camrose of all places, so it's a long ways to go. But of course, in the Bow Valley, you cannot have landfill sites. So also, Lantern Festival was out for a little bit, and the Kinsman Car Show was fabulous. And the week before, don't always mention community events that aren't kind of official council business, but also the Feast on Main, which was fantastic as well. So lots of great things happening, and lots of great things coming up in the community going forward too. So we will move into agenda item 11 and the open mic session. So if there's anybody with us today that would like to come up to the open mic, please do so. And just nobody? Okay. All right, then we will move on to 12 upcoming events. And I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the upcoming events as information.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion to accept for information.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about anything? If not, all in favor? Okay, carried. And then we will have a motion to go in camera, please.
Mayor Mayor Barclay, I'd like to make the motion that we move in camera.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Thank you. And thanks, everybody, for coming today, and we appreciate it. I think we'll just take